I don't know the exact moment I stopped believing my company cared about me, but I can tell you the exact moment I realized it had never cared at all. It was 9:47 p.m., the night before our corporate retreat to Hawaii, the one I spent $20,000 of my own money on because my boss insisted it was career critical. I was sitting on my bedroom floor with an open suitcase, rolling up shirts I bought on sale because I wanted to look like I belonged there. My hands were still shaking from excitement, and then my phone buzzed. One notification, one sentence, and everything I'd built in my head collapsed so quietly it barely made a sound. I forgot your ticket. Go home. That was it. No apology, no explanation, not even my name. Just a command, like I was someone he could dismiss with a flick of his wrist. I stared at the screen long enough that the text blurred, my eyes burning in that strange way where you're not crying, but your body is getting ready to. My apartment felt too quiet, too still, like the air itself had stepped back from me. I had spent a year saving for that retreat, a full year of skipping dinners out, turning down trips with friends, canceling birthdays, taking side projects that paid in gift cards. The company didn't reimburse retreats. Investment in your future, they called it. And when I told my boss, Doug, that I wasn't sure I could afford it, he looked at me like I'd confessed a weakness. If you want leadership to see you, he said, you need to be there. It's non-negotiable, Alex. So I treated it like gospel. I treated him like someone who knew what he was talking about. The worst part is I let myself feel proud. I thought this retreat meant something. I thought this was finally my moment to stop being the quiet guy in the room who carries the workloads nobody else wants. The dependable one, the good sport, the invisible backbone of every project that mysteriously ended up with Doug's name on it. I kept telling myself that maybe I was overreacting, that maybe the text meant something else, but my stomach already knew the truth. I reread it 5 more times. I forgot your ticket. Go home. Forgot, like forgetting to pick up milk. The memory that hit me hardest was from the week before. Doug had slapped my shoulder on the way out of the conference room and said, "Don't worry about packing too much. We'll be working hard, but I'll make sure you get time to relax." I'd laughed, actually laughed, like an idiot who still thought loyalty had value. I sat on the floor for almost an hour, surrounded by folded clothes that suddenly felt ridiculous, the kind of ridiculous that stings. My suitcase looked like a joke I didn't know I was the punchline of. I kept thinking about the hotel I'd booked, the flight I paid for up front, the sessions I'd signed up for. The confirmation emails were still sitting in my inbox like props from someone else's life. I typed back 3 different messages, deleted all of them. In the end, I didn't send anything. Some part of me believed that silence made me less pathetic. It didn't. When I finally got up, I felt a heaviness in my chest that wasn't grief and wasn't anger. It was something quieter, something that filled the space beneath both. I walked into the bathroom, splashed water on my face, stared at myself in the mirror. I looked tired, older, like someone replaying every small moment they ignored because they hoped for something better. All the little things came back. Doug calling me kid, even though I'm 32. Doug taking credit for the client pitch I worked on alone. Doug sending Slack messages at midnight, then joking about it during meetings like I didn't mind. Doug telling me, if you want to grow here, you need to toughen up. And the worst one, me believing him. I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, feeling the dread settle into a tight knot under my ribs. I kept imagining my team boarding the flight, laughing in that corporate forced way, clinking glasses, talking about team synergy. I imagined Doug smirking, claiming the company covered my costs so nobody would question why I wasn't there. By morning, the knot had turned into something sharper. I made coffee I couldn't taste. I sat at my kitchen table and tried to convince myself I'd move on. Pretend it was a misunderstanding. Pretend I wasn't humiliated. Pretend I hadn't just wasted $20,000 for nothing. But something inside me had already shifted. People think big betrayals come with shouting, with thrown chairs, with dramatic scenes. They don't. Sometimes they come as a text message sent without a second thought. Sometimes they come as silence afterward. I didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just about the ticket. This wasn't just about Hawaii. This was the moment I stopped carrying the weight for people who never bothered to notice I was holding it at all. And I realized this wasn't the end of the story. It was the moment my truth finally began to be heard. The retreat started without me on a Thursday. I know that because my phone calendar popped up a reminder at 5:30 a.m. anyway. Check in, flight to Honolulu. I stared at the screen until it faded back to black, then turned the phone face down like that would change anything. By 8, I'd convinced myself to at least try to fix it. Maybe there was a mix-up. Maybe Doug would realize how insane that text sounded written out loud. Maybe he'd follow up with, "Kidding, we'll sort it out. People do stupid things when they're stressed, right?" I scrolled back up our thread. "I forgot your ticket. Go home." Nothing after that. No typing bubbles. No second thoughts. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. On the third attempt, it rang twice before kicking over. He declined it. That hit harder than I expected. It's one thing to be forgotten. It's another to be deliberately ignored. I sent a text. "Hey, Doug, I've already paid for my flight and hotel. Can we talk about what's going on?" No answer. Around 10, I got a message in the retreat group chat. Someone posted a selfie at the airport bar, all matching company polos and fake excitement. "Retreat squad, see you in paradise." I zoomed in automatically, searching for Doug. There he was in the back, hand up, big grin, like nothing in his world had gone even slightly wrong. Like he hadn't just told one of his direct reports to stay home after making him pay thousands to be there. My name was still on the participant list pinned at the top of the chat. Alex Carter, project lead. I stared at it for a long time. Technically, as far as the team was concerned, I was supposed to be there. I typed, "Hey guys, something came up, not making it after all. Have fun." The second I hit send, the shame washed over me. It sounded like I bailed, like I flaked. Nobody needed the real story to judge me. They just needed that one line. Reactions came in immediately. "Oh man, that sucks. Next year?" More drinks for us, I guess. Doug didn't respond at all. I tried the airline next. That was the rational thing, right? If I could at least salvage the ticket, maybe I wouldn't feel like I'd lit a match to 20 grand. After an hour on hold listening to the same distorted piano loop, a woman named Sandra finally came on the line. "Hi, this is Alex Carter. I need to confirm the status of my flight to Honolulu for today." A pause. Typing. The faint clicking of a keyboard. "I'm not seeing any active reservation under that name for today, sir. Are you sure it was booked?" My stomach dropped in a very specific way. It was supposed to be booked by my company. Corporate retreat. I was told... "I understand," she cut in, professional but distant. "Sometimes companies reserve under a travel account or a group name. Do you have a confirmation number?" I didn't. Doug never sent one. "I'm sorry," she said after another minute. "I'm not seeing you on the manifest for that flight or any connecting flights today." I hung up polite, thanked her for her time, then sat there on my couch staring at the wall. There hadn't been a ticket to forget. Doug hadn't messed up. He'd lied. He'd told me to go home from a flight that never existed for me in the first place. By noon, the group chat had moved on to photos from the plane. Window shots of clouds, someone already drinking a mimosa, the classic first-class life joke from a guy who made twice my salary. My anger finally started to outweigh the embarrassment. I opened my work laptop. If there's one thing 4 years in that company teaches you, it's where the bodies are buried in our shared drives. Retreats were always a big culture investment. There were folders for past years, budgets, presentations. I dug around until I found the one for this trip. Q3 Leadership Alignment, Hawaii. Inside was the agenda, the vendor contracts, the hotel invoices, and there it was, attendee travel summary, final. I clicked it. It was a spreadsheet, of course. Everything important in that place eventually became a spreadsheet. Column A, names. Column B, department. Column C, flight cost. Column D, hotel. Column E, misc expenses. At the top, the header, approved by D. Rollins. My eyes slid down the list, searching for my name. There. Row 17. Carter, Alex, product, flight, $1,450, hotel, $2,800, misc, $1,200, total, $5,450. I felt my heart beating in my ears. I hadn't stepped on a single plane. I hadn't checked into a single hotel, but according to this document, the company had already eaten over $5,000 on my behalf. I checked the date. The file had been last modified 2 weeks ago, before Doug sent me that text, before I'd even finished paying my credit card off from the retreat costs. For a second I thought maybe this was how it worked. Maybe the company paid and I was supposed to reimburse them, and Doug just forgot to tell me. The stories you tell yourself to avoid admitting you've been played are always generous. Then I noticed another tab at the bottom, Expense Reimbursement Summary. Same names, same totals, and another column, Approved Payout. Next to Doug's name, flight, $0, hotel, $0, misc, $8,200, approved payout, $8,200. Next to mine, travel subsidy for key contributor, approved to Doug. It didn't spell it out, but it didn't have to. Whatever Alex's costs were on paper, they weren't going to me. They were going somewhere else. I sat back and let the pattern emerge on its own. Doug had told me to pay for my own retreat. He'd then logged fake company costs under my name, as if the company had covered my side, and then that subsidy got routed to him as a lump sum. The numbers didn't lie. People do. I scrolled more. It wasn't just me. There were 2 other names on the list I knew damn well had paid out of pocket because we'd all complained about it over after-work beers. Both had subsidies listed. Both had payouts to Doug. My hands were suddenly very steady. I took screenshots. Then I downloaded the file and saved a copy to an external drive I kept for personal projects. Years of being the guy who fixes things had made me paranoid enough to have backups for everything. For once, that paranoia felt like preparation. I thought about calling him again. Thought about writing some long, angry message, telling him I knew what he'd done, how screwed up it was. I imagined him laughing it off, telling me I misunderstood internal accounting, or worse, calling me emotional, unprofessional, ungrateful. So I didn't call him. Instead, I opened our internal org chart and clicked on a department most people only remember exists when something goes horribly wrong. Corporate compliance and legal. There was a name I recognized there. Amelia Torres, Senior Compliance Counsel. We'd spoken once, months ago, when she gave a presentation about conflicts of interest. I remember because she'd stayed after to answer my question when everyone else bolted for coffee. She'd looked me in the eye and said, "If something ever feels off, that's usually your first red flag. Listen to it." At the time, I thought she meant someone else. I found her email. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Part of me still hesitated. This is where a lot of people back down, right at the point where doing the right thing stops being theoretical. I thought about the mortgage I was barely keeping up with, the promotion I'd been chasing, the quiet comments about how Doug was connected upstairs. I could almost hear their voices. Don't rock the boat. It's just money. Be grateful you have a job. But then my eyes drifted back to that cell in the spreadsheet. Travel subsidy, Alex Carter, payout to Doug. It wasn't just money. It was theft with my name on it. I started typing. "Hi, Amelia. I'm not sure if this is the right channel, but I think there may be irregularities in how our recent corporate retreat expenses were reported. My name is Alex Carter, and I laid it out simply. No drama, no accusations, just facts. Dates, amounts, screenshots attached. I finished with, if this is nothing, I'd rather be told I'm wrong than ignore something serious. But if it's not nothing, I don't feel comfortable approaching my manager directly." I reread it twice, hit send before I could talk myself out of it. Then I closed the laptop and sat in the quiet of my living room, the retreat photos still pinging in the group chat on my phone, like a different universe I almost paid to be in. I didn't know it yet, but that email was the line Doug never expected me to cross. The email I sent to compliance felt like dropping a pebble into a well and not knowing whether I'd hear a splash or a scream. For 2 days, nothing happened. No response. No acknowledgement. No read receipt. I started thinking maybe it landed in some automated queue that nobody checks unless someone yells loud enough. Doug certainly wasn't yelling. He was in Hawaii, drinking company-sponsored Mai Tais and giving talks about leadership integrity. On day 3, something shifted. I walked into the office early, hoping the quiet would keep me from spiraling too much. The air had that particular stale chill it gets after a night of overworked AC. Saw lights humming above empty cubicles. My steps echoed more than usual. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and saw a meeting invitation waiting for me. Subject, follow-up required, Carter, from A. Torres. Compliance attendees, you, me, internal security. Internal security doesn't join meetings for misunderstandings. I felt a flicker of adrenaline under my ribs, the kind that isn't fear and isn't excitement, something in between, like standing in the dark and hearing someone else breathe. The meeting was set for noon. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was being discreet, because I genuinely didn't know what to say. What did you tell your coworkers? Hey, I think our boss is robbing the company blind and using my name as a receipt. Scrolling through Slack, I noticed something else. Doug hadn't posted a single update in the retreat chat since day 1. Not a photo, not a joke, not a team-building quote. That wasn't normal. He loved performing leadership. Silence wasn't his language. Maybe he was just busy. Or maybe someone had already tapped him on the shoulder. Noon came faster than I wanted. I walked into the small glass conference room on the 3rd floor, the one nobody uses unless something is serious enough to justify the lack of privacy. Amelia was already there, papers neatly stacked in front of her, hair pulled back, expression calm in a way that made my pulse jump. Across from her sat a man I'd never met. Broad shoulders, navy suit, neutral face, the kind of person who could deliver bad news without blinking. Alex, Amelia gestured to the chair, thanks for coming. I sat. I wasn't sure how much detail you needed in the email. I didn't want to overstep. You didn't, she said, sliding a printed spreadsheet toward the center of the table. We need to ask a few questions, and I want you to answer plainly. You're not in any trouble. That last sentence landed like a soft hand on the back of my neck, grounding and terrifying all at once. She turned to the man. This is Dan from Internal Security. He nodded. Thanks for bringing this forward. They asked about the retreat, about the payment, about every instruction Doug had given me. I told them everything. Not dramatically, not angrily, Max. Just step by step. The truth laid out like evidence. Then Amelia tapped a pen against the spreadsheet. We pulled the audit logs for this file. It was edited under Doug's credentials. Alone. A beat. We also checked travel records. You weren't booked for anything. Not by us. Not through our travel agency. Not through any vendor. I swallowed. So the amounts listed next to my name are fabricated, she finished, and they've been routed into a discretionary bonus account Doug controls. My throat went dry. How much? Dan flipped a page. Across 3 retreats, $36,000. $36,000? My name had been a line item in a theft I didn't know I was part of. Amelia clasped her hands. We're initiating a formal investigation. Effective immediately, Doug is suspended pending review. A strange sound left my chest. Not a laugh. Not relief. Maybe the release of months of swallowed anger. But that was just the outer layer. Something else was happening in the building. Around 2, whispers started leaking between cubicles. Little things. The VP of operations being pulled into a meeting. HR blocking out entire afternoons. The accounting team looking like someone had just thrown a grenade into their inboxes. People walked faster. Doors stayed shut longer. Every hallway felt charged, like static, right before lightning touches down. I kept my head down, but I watched. Observing became its own kind of survival instinct. Around 4, my Slack pinged, Doug Rollins, you. Call me, now. That was the first sign of panic. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, another message. Whatever you think you found, you don't understand the context. Now, don't do anything stupid. I closed the chat without typing a single word. 5 minutes after that, I got a text. Alex, pick up. Then another, we can fix this. Don't talk to anyone else. Then another, you're making a mistake. And then, the one that told me everything I needed to know about who he really was. If this investigation expands, you won't walk away clean either. Threats. The last cheap tool of a man who'd run out of polished ones. I took screenshots, forwarded them to Amelia. Her reply came almost instantly. Thank you. This is important. 2 hours later, Doug was removed from every Slack channel. Then his email status changed to inactive. Then the executive assistant walked through the office, collecting his nameplate, laptop, and badge. No explanations, no ceremony, just silence, the kind that means something's gone wrong. The retreat photos stopped completely. Around 6, I was packing up my things when Amelia approached my desk. Alex, she said quietly, we're moving forward on this tonight. There are additional irregularities. This goes beyond the retreat. I blinked. Beyond? She nodded once. Expense reports. Vendor payments. Bonus allocations. It's extensive. The room felt smaller. She lowered her voice. I want you to go home. We may reach out again soon, but for now, let us handle it. I thought about Doug in Hawaii, probably pacing around some overpriced suite, trying to call anyone who still picked up when he dialed. For the first time since all this started, I felt something sharp and bright bloom in my chest. Not petty, not cruel, but deeply, undeniably earned. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. And for the first time in years, that truth finally mattered. The first real sign that everything had changed came the next morning. I woke up to an email from compliance timestamped 2:14 a.m. Update, action taken. That was it. No details, no explanation. But it told me enough. Whatever they found went deeper than what I'd uncovered. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some things didn't belong to me anymore. When I walked into the office later that day, the mood was different. Not chaotic, not loud, just, off. People spoke in low voices. HR offices were closed with blinds drawn. A couple of directors I'd only seen on company live streams were actually in the building. Accounting looked like they'd been awake all night. I was pouring myself coffee when Jenna from HR glanced at me through the glass and gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Not friendly, not conspiratorial. Just a simple acknowledgement that I'd set something in motion, and the rest was unfolding. By noon, the announcement went out. Effective immediately, Douglas Rollins is no longer employed with the company. No farewell email, no corporate fluff about exploring new opportunities. Just gone. A second message followed 20 minutes later. A formal investigation is underway regarding unauthorized use of corporate funds. We appreciate your cooperation. Nobody said Doug's name. They didn't need to. For the rest of the day, managers held hushed meetings. The executive suite door stayed closed. Someone mentioned legal had temporarily locked several accounts for review. Someone else said the retreat hotel had been contacted to verify charges. People looked at each other the way coworkers do when they've worked beside the wrong person for too long and suddenly have to reckon with it. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I barely spoke. It wasn't joy. It was clarity. A kind of stillness that slid into place inside me, like a bone finally setting after months out of alignment. At 3:47 p.m., I was called into a conference room. Inside sat Amelia, the VP of HR, and someone from legal I'd never seen before. The VP started. Alex, thank you for coming. We'll keep this brief. I nodded. She folded her hands on the table. We want to formally confirm that you were not involved in any financial misconduct. Your name was used without authorization. You are not part of this investigation except as a witness." The breath I didn't know I'd been holding finally left my lungs. Legal added, "We have documented evidence that Doug redirected funds tied to several retreats and vendor engagements. Your report enabled us to uncover activity that predates your arrival at the company." I blinked. Predates. He'd been doing this for years. My $20,000 wasn't an accident. It wasn't even the worst part. Amelia slid a folder toward me. "There are 2 matters we need to address officially." She opened it. "First, reimbursement." Inside was a check. Full amount. Every dollar I'd spent. Plus compensation for financial and emotional distress caused by fraudulent managerial direction. Second page, a bonus, a real one. One that didn't end up in someone else's pocket. I stared at the numbers a long moment. My throat tightened, not from happiness, but from the sting of knowing how unnecessary all this had been, how avoidable. "Second," she continued, "we'd like to offer you an expanded role. Project lead, plus oversight of the initiatives you've been handling informally. Higher pay band, discretionary budget, direct line to operations." I didn't respond right away. Not because I didn't want it, but because I suddenly understood something painful and simple. They'd never seen my work clearly until the man blocking the view was removed. I accepted quietly. No victory lap, no handshake parade. After the meeting, I walked outside, letting the cold air clear the last pieces of whatever was left of the past few weeks. The sky looked the same as always, but something in me didn't. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the check still in its envelope. My phone was silent. No messages from Doug, he'd been locked out. No panic texts from coworkers. No guilt, no chaos. No sense of needing to defend myself. Just stillness. The kind of stillness I had forgotten existed. I booked a trip, not to Hawaii, to a small cabin near the coast I had always wanted to visit, but never did, because I was too busy being available. 2 nights, no agenda, no forced networking, no supervisors pretending to be friends. When I arrived, the first thing I noticed was the quiet. Real quiet. Not the office quiet where people tiptoe around bad news, the kind where the world doesn't demand anything from you. I stood on the deck, breathing in the smell of salt and pine, watching the water move in slow, steady patterns. My shoulders loosened without my permission. I thought about the retreat, about the suit I packed, about the hotel I never checked into, about the $20,000 I lost and then found again. I thought about Doug's text. "Go home." And how ironic it was that, in the end, that's exactly what I did. Just not in the way he meant. I didn't hate him. I didn't wish him anything. There's a kind of peace that comes only when you stop carrying someone else's weight. I let the last pieces of resentment fall away on their own. The universe, HR, legal, whoever wanted to take responsibility for the consequences could do it. I didn't need to. On the second morning of the trip, I woke up early, stepped outside, and watched the sun climb over the coastline. I didn't think about work. I didn't think about money. I didn't think about proving myself to anyone. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for permission to breathe. When I got back home, my apartment felt different. Bigger somehow, like I'd finally moved into a life I'd been standing just outside of. I hung my jacket, made coffee the way I liked it, opened the curtains, sat down without checking my email, and for the first time since this entire thing began, I realized the truth I'd been circling around. Peace isn't dramatic. Peace isn't loud. Peace doesn't announce itself. It just settles in once you finally stop inviting chaos to sit at your table. I didn't go to Hawaii. I didn't get the retreat memories or the fake team-building photos or the company-sanctioned version of growth. I got something better. I got my life back,